Hi, everybody. Good morning or good night, depending on where you are right now. We are going to get going. Just a sec. I guess we're already going, actually. So, hi, I'm Jen, and I'm going to be coding today in front of you on a webcam and typing stuff. And this is actually the second session in a project I've been working on. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're working on today. Let me switch to the actual code view. So here is pretty much where we left off last time. We have our integrated development environment, which I'll try not to get cut off by my little webcam, and our terminal down here. So what we were doing was we were making animated gifs with the hope of making them in Google Cloud Functions. So essentially what I can do is I can take a bunch of pictures in a bucket in the cloud, and then I can run a cloud function that will scoop up a bunch of them and then stitch them together into a GIF. So let me bring on a little picture, because yes, I'm that evil. I'm bringing a slide deck to you. So here's kind of a picture of the architecture that we're going to be doing. This is taken from the Cloud Functions webpage. This is about thumbnail generation on mobile apps. We're doing something a little bit different. We are doing GIF generation. But the story is pretty much the same deal. A bunch of phones are taking a bunch of pictures. In this case, they're actually taking them simultaneously as part of one of our demos. All of those individual pictures are uploaded into a storage bucket. Them ending up in the storage bucket triggers a function. Each of those functions downloads the image, or one function execution downloads all of the images from all of those phones. Does maybe a little bit of pre-processing on them to kind of like normalize the contrast and stuff like that, but that's a feature for version 2. Anyway, what this one's going to do is it's going to stitch them all together, and it's going to make one pretty animated GIF or GIF, and then it's going to write that location back to a different bucket on Google Cloud Platform. Once that GIF is uploaded, then we can do the rest of the demo. That will trigger an event downstream in the system. For example, maybe displaying it on another phone so people can be like, yeah, I like that one. So taking a step further back, why are we doing this? What are we trying to build? We are trying to build this kind of thingamajig. This is a demo that we have been showing for the last couple years at a lot of events. It was originally hacked together using 5 engineers that preferred 5 different languages and a bunch of backend components. And it's a little bit hard to maintain. Also a little bit hard to kind of get going each time. We learned a lot from our first version. So the work I'm doing today is a re-implementation, which is always the most exciting work to do, and it never has any risk of running over. You never discover any hidden features you need down there anywhere. Water, just a sec. So we're doing some re-implementation on that. And if you want to learn more about the overall project, there is a Twitter stream. Oh my gosh. It shows you all sorts of cool GIFs people have made in the past at our events using this project, including the one I just showed you. So if you want to learn more, I encourage you to go out, take a peek around. We've also done a few talks on the original architecture of this, which was fun to build. It was an exciting project. The project it's kind of a more complicated architecture than it needs to be. And I am replacing it with version 2 so we can bring it to more events and make more GIFs and add more awesome features. I'm not sure you could hear that, but there's some background noise because I live in a city. So sorry about that. If you hear excessive background noise, let me know. I am still kind of tinkering around with my audio setup. It's of course coffee time. I drink coffee as I code. And there is much news going around about things that are unrelated to code that may be related to my employer. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff today, but I am going to drink out of my Women at Google Geek Girl Dinner favorite coffee mug. Okay, so enough blabbering and enough showing slides to you. Let's get going. Let's dig into this thing. Here's where we left off last time. I proved to all of you that I don't really know Node that well. I've never really built anything large in it. I've just tinkered around a little bit, and I actually had no idea how the process spawning worked. So we spent most of an hour last time pasting code snippets in about process spawning and seeing standard output from Stack Overflow, which is a part of programming today. Stack Overflow, with its ambiguous license and much hidden terrible practices internal, is an important part of like getting that first step on the system. But the important thing to know when you're writing software is that is only the first step. You have to loop back and understand what you've pasted in from Stack Overflow, or terrible things will happen, whether they be security issues, who knows. Like also all that code is like ambiguously licensed. It's complicated, it's a mess. It's great for learning, but it can also be a crutch. So it is important to crack these things. So where we left off was we had made it as far as running a command called, oops, that's not actually, let me do a little refactoring. We ran a command, a pwd command, and all I wanted to do was see the standard output, mostly so I could see the directory that my function was running from. So in this case, I ran node index.js, ran my function, which is way down at the bottom of your screen, ran node index.js, and there we saw that my thing is running, my gifizer is running, and it told me in standard out that it knows the directory it is running in. And this is relevant because we want to take a look around a little bit. Oh, you can see all my projects. So there is a directory in here called fodder, which is just one directory up. I'll just do it this way. And in this directory is all of the pictures that I want to stitch together. And we can actually see a version of them that I have stitched together in the past. So I'm going to switch this back to handy dandy list mode. And we can see it with preview. Because the very first thing I did last session was I stitched these together by hand, just using ImageMagick on the command line to make sure that it was going to work. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to reproduce this GIF from these source images, except instead of just running ImageMagick on the command line, I want to run ImageMagick from node. This is going to be kind of my first step of moving that towards the cloudy land place. Okay, so we want to be able to, so the first thing we want to do from our node function is be able to navigate into that previous directory, or at least refer to those images. So let's go into here and let's rename our function again, rename it back to what I just did, rename code occurrences. There's now an ls, except ls, going to go into the functions. We want to do an ls // fodder. So we just want to be able to list these things because I'm going to need to be able to pass that as an argument to ImageMagick. So it looks like this is the syntax. First you give it the command, and then, let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see a little more easily. You give it the command, and then you give it the arguments. And in our case, this is going to be // fodder /. Okay, so we're going to run this again. I have already trapped that. There we go. There's the bottom. Okay. I need to like get a background or something on here so I know what is clipping off the screen for you. And oh my gosh, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It lists the files in that directory. Okay. We're getting a little closer. Now let's change this to the magic command. Refactor, rename. Giphy eyes. Because, you know, non-dictionary words are great. Oh yes, and as a matter of process, while I'm coding and bouncing around, if you have recommendations, if you have found any bugs, let me know, because you are all my pair programmers right now. So your responsibility is to learn from what I'm typing, because we are always cross-training each other as software developers, and to give me advice. Like if I make a syntax error or have some weird bug or I just doing something dumb, let me know. That's what the chat is for. Chat is great for that. because that will make me more productive, which is one of the reasons I am streaming with you today, this fine morning. Okay, so here we are. We are just kind of taking this ImageMagick command. We are moving it down here. So we're running the magic command. To magic, we are passing it a subcommand because ImageMagick is kind of like a bag of different image manipulation tricks. We're running the convert command on ImageMagick. And then we are passing it a whole bunch of these other things. And I think I can probably just copy and paste these out. Let's just see if this works. This is not super tidy. Making a GIF the awesome way. GIF with a super long, kind of messy. We will see. So I'm making GIF with a super long, kind of messy command. We will see if there is a better way to do it after it runs. And let's call it spin4.gif. And hey, child process exited with code 0. Do you know what that means? I think we might have a GIF. So opening that up, it opened over here, and oh my gosh, we ran a shell command that made a GIF. And I will prove it to you even more better than that it actually works. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this on the screen. Where can you actually see? You can see right here. We just want to see that there's a file that's going to appear here when I run my function. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Okay, this is pretty cool. So do I actually have a Git repo that this is? This would be a good time. So I am one of those people that commits often. I have not made a Git repo for this yet. Initialize Git repo. So what I'm going to do now is I hadn't had a Git repo for this. I'm going to check all of this in to my local Git repo, and then I'm going to figure out where I'm going to push it to later. But I'm not actually pushing it to the world yet. So what in here do I want to not check in? I will work on my gitignore. So here is going to be a gitignore. Let me make this all bigger. We do not want to, I don't like checking in any of my ID artifacts because with IntelliJ they're pretty easy to just regenerate, which I prefer to do, kind of taking those artifacts around, which I know is actually typical behavior for IntelliJ. I don't know. I just don't like doing it. It is not tidy to me. So what else do I not want? I don't want to check in Firebase RC because that has a whole bunch of stuff that is specific to my project. And nowhere do I want to check in DS store because I'm on OS 10, and this is like the OS 10, like it's where it stores like all the metadata for these little view windows in these .ds store files. They're stupid, and they should go away. What else do I now want to check in? That's probably okay for now. Is git, hey, okay, and swap. I don't want to check in swap files because those are the swap files created by my VI. Oh, I did this wrong. Does that fix it? Hey, that fixes it. I don't know if that slash is actually required. Hey, okay, git add dot, git status, all those things in there. Node modules, we didn't want those either. So let's get rid of that stuff. Actually, this is again to me proving that I don't know something. I never really took the time to learn the syntax of these kinds of files. I don't really know what the star thing means. I just know it's a pretty aggressive way to exclude files. Git. So, but I think I'll get rid of the node modules. So now I'm going to try, but I've already added them. I've already like staged them. So I need to remove them. But I don't want to delete them. So I'm going to delete rm recursive, and then I'm going to tell it with this weird flag that's like, hey, git dude, like this is like my cache stuff. So like delete it from your stage, but don't delete it locally. Hey, that seemed to work. My gitignore does not check it in anymore, and only the files I actually want to go up are going up. Let's just double check that this file doesn't have any keys in it. I'm going to hide because I don't want to send you my keys either. So I'm just taking a peek at that file. It does not have any keys in it. I was pretty sure it didn't, but I am just extra paranoid because streaming coding is kind of like a ticking time bomb until I leak out a bunch of keys and have to like stop in the middle of a stream and like revoke them, and that's no fun. So I'm still new at this, so I'm still leaning on the side of paranoid. Okay, so we have stuff that kind of works now, works well enough. I'm gonna check it in. I'm going to commit with the message, OMG, OZMG, I made a GIF. GIF? So I have an intern who says GIF, and he is correct, and I find that awesome. The new generation is it's going to be one of those things that seems to define a generation divide. Who uses the word GIF and sticks to it, like some old get off my lawn kind of person, and who actually uses the modern, better, correct, as said by the author description, which is GIF. Okay, so anyway, I made a GIF from Node. Okay. So we checked it in. And this is only a local repo, so it does not like go to the cloud. So there's nowhere for me to push it to yet. So let me keep this back on screen. And hey, my ID picked it up. That's pretty cool. Okay, so going back to coding land. Where do we go from now? So we've made a GIF from this function. Now what we can do is, I guess let's go take a look at our to-do list. That was in this thing, right? Yeah, we have a to-do list here. Do that thing from node.js. Woot! We did that. I'm going to strike through, which there's no hotkey for, so I'm going to do it with a menu. Next, we want to get the source images from a storage bucket. So we are doing the GIF, and we're doing the GIF creation from the local file system, but next we want to be able to download them from a bucket, which is where they're going to be when we're using this thing in production. So let's go take a look at that. This will require me to go to a web browser. You don't care about this web browser. That's a little Hall of Mirrors effect right there, isn't it? And then we are going to go to cloud.google.com, and I am going to hide again in case I accidentally leak out a key or something. I am hiding, I am looking at a console, making sure it loads the correct project and does not like, I don't know, I don't want to like do some kind of weird doxing to my like collaborator friends. I don't think there are any secrets on here. Let's go find out. Okay, so here we are. This is the console page for my wonderful project. And there are many things I could do here, but what I want to do is I want to go to storage, which is all the way over here. I can also find it just by typing, which is actually faster once you get the hang of it. We're going to, so here's my Gifiator project. It has some default buckets that have been created. Apparently I don't have my billing set up right now, so I cannot create a bucket yet. So I'm going to do some hijinks to get billing set up. These are hijinks. So what I would be doing now, if I didn't already have a billing account set up for some of my other tinkering, is I would sign up for a free trial and create a billing account. But today, I'm going to just use the billing account that I've already created and already used for a lot of my other experiments. So, but this definitely does show some information I do not want to share with everybody out there, so I'm going to hide in hacker mode. So I'm going to go to the console for my other project. This one has super duper many multi-factor auth. So I'm going to use my security keys. So if you don't use these things for your accounts, you should. They are security keys. They are called YubiKeys. They are amazing because they are much harder to sniff than like a traditional multi-factor, like an SMS code or something like that, because they use like the magic of cryptography and that kind of stuff. But I live in the modern world, so I need a USB adapter to be able to plug that into my thing. Oh, actually, I can plug it in right here. Because, of course, being a lead hacksaw, I'm always short on USB ports. So I'm now authenticating. That was successful. Those things are amazing. And one of the reasons they're so cool and they're actually in a physical little dongle is you have secure hardware in this thing. This is like one of my favorite things of the modern world. It has a little secure hardware in it, which means even if my laptop gets totally pwned and like rooted, it is a whole nother step. They need a whole nother set of 0 days to get this thing and get to the contents inside of it. And this is cool because it works on systems that don't have any kind of like secure execution area. Like a lot of phones are starting to get now. So it's redundant with a lot of the hardware security being implemented in hardware devices, like how Apple's Touch ID works and stuff. But it's backwards compatible with the rest of the world. And I don't trust that my laptop's not pwned because I have root on it, and I don't trust myself with root. But anyway, I digress. I was going to go set up a project. So I actually have a special user that I use for developing in front of all of you with an email address that doesn't go anywhere, just to dev null, so that if I start getting signed up for spam, nothing bad will happen. But, so now because my billing account is being administered by a different user on Google Cloud Platform, I have to kind of like share my connection with, I have to like share my project with that other user. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going on in to I am an admin, where all the secrets live. I'm going to add a user to this project, which is something I wish I could show you, but like I have a bunch of email addresses here. I'm going to add another project administrator owner. Yeah, because I trust myself that much. And I'm going to add that other owner. And because I'm adding as an owner, which is a super powerful role, we have to go through the whole little dance of getting an email sent out and clicking on some links and all that kind of stuff. And this is just to reduce trouble that happens. On my primary billing account, I've accepted the invitation, and I'm now into the Giffiator project. And now I can go in here and set up a billing, which I will find using search. I'm going to go over to billing. I'm going to link it to an existing billing account. And this is really cool because like one of the things like in cloud, when you're using cloud products a lot, the person who's doing the development, even the one who's administrating all of it, is not necessarily the person who controls all the finances, which is why it is really cool that these are a little bit decoupled. But in this case, I'm also the billing administrator, so I have to kind of like wear many different hats. So I think I'm done. Okay, so the billing account is connected. We will go back to storage. We are back on storage, and hey, my billing account is set up. Oh, but there's one other step I have to do because the domain that's now connected via billing has some special security stuff that I need to set. Because it is good. Different organizations have different security policies, and it is good to make sure you observe all those different security policies. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure that this is set up the way I want it to be. I'm going to go in, I'm going to find that special setting in the notes I took earlier. I'm going to grab it because it is a long string of stuff. I'm going to add it. And okay. Special settings, set it up. Now I can show you what I'm actually up to again. We have left the land of secrets and shadows. And we are back on the webcam thing. Well, I was always on the webcam, I guess. Back on the coding screen, doing the lead hacksaw again. So now you can see that I can create a bucket. That's because the billing account is properly set up now. I'm going to create one. I'm going to call it gifs. source gifs. I'm going to call it Giffiator source. I spelled it the same way as the project name. That is what I wanted. And these names are globally unique. So I usually prefix them with my project name so that I don't steal any names that might be someone else's project name or something. We are going to be using regular multi-regional storage. Going to be US based. I don't need any labels. And generally what, for this kind of project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bunch of different buckets. And the reason I'm doing that instead of just stuffing things in different directories in the same bucket is because the way notifications are tied into Cloud Functions right now. So a Cloud Function can listen for events on a bucket. So actually, I will show you Firebase Cloud Functions storage. Let's go take a peek. So I will show you why I'm creating a bunch of different buckets. So storage triggers are awesome, but storage triggers trigger on any event within the entire bucket. That is a reference tag. That is not really what, this is good enough to show you. So I can't filter down to a specific directory. I can filter down to a specific bucket. So in this case, in this generate thumbnail example, they are generating thumbnails for all objects that go into this bucket. And what you can do is you can do these short circuits for things like, in this case, in their example, this thing is already a thumbnail. I don't need to thumbnailize it. I've identified it by the file name. I'm just gonna sidestep. The way the design pattern I tend to use, I just create more buckets because you're billed by the storage doesn't really make a huge difference. So anyway, so I created a bucket. I'm going to create a fake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder for each one of these sessions. So like every time like the demo executes and we take a bunch of pictures of somebody in their cool snapshot pose, and then I will name it session 01 for now. You will create a folder. Yes, I could do this on the command line too. I'm just lazy. And then I'm going to take my images and I'm going to put them up in there. They're uploading right now. I have pretty fast internet. They are already up there. I'm going to create another bucket. I'm going to call it Giffiator gifs. Got to make sure I spell it right. Let me look really close. Is that how it's spelled? Yes. Giffiator gifs. Another multi-regional bucket. So I'm actually going to connect to two different buckets in my Cloud Function. I'm going to get the stuff out of Giffiator source. There's going to be a session identifier. And then I'm going to go into Giffiator gifs. I'm going to create a new folder with the session identifier. And then that's where the gifs for that session go. Right now, I'm only creating one GIF from one specific snapshot in time. But later on, what I want to actually do is I want to create a whole bunch of GIFs that the user can choose from so that if they have like a derpy face in one of the GIFs or something, they can not use that one and choose the one where they look super awesome. Yeah. Okay. So we're doing Giffiator source. Here's all the pictures I'm going to be slurping in, which are super tiny. I'm so sorry I made them all tiny. And now we need to be able to use this from Cloud Functions. So we are going to require Cloud. Oh yeah, this is actually the example. Coincidentally, the example I have up in this web browser right now is the one I was totally going to copy a bunch of code from. And actually, a bunch of it might be up here already. Only some of it. But we definitely need Google Cloud Storage so we can get to our GIFs. Let's go do that. So now we have Google Cloud Functions, or rather we have Google Cloud Storage in there. So, and we also have our little onRequest function here. Cool, okay. So let's give it a run, because I think I have to do some npm installation or something. Go to functions, node, index. Ah, it blew up in a fireball, and it says, I have no idea what this cloud storage stuff is. So how do I npm install that? Let's take a look. Cloud storage package. And oh, it has it right here. These docs are awesome. So writing good docs for really broad projects is very hard to do, but it's definitely something that my teammates have really stepped up and done. Our docs are, like, I will brag a little bit. I think they're pretty awesome right now. So while that does its installation, I'm going to drink some coffee. As with anything in Node.js land, you install one dependency, but you're really installing like 50. That is kind of hilarious. I wonder if infamous left pad is in there. Anyway, let's give it a kick again. Let's see if it runs. Oh my gosh, it didn't explode because it couldn't find its dependency. It actually ran something. So what we are going to do is we're going to download from the bucket. Hey, chain of promises. Promises are cool. I only vaguely understand promises though, because I just have not worked on systems like big enough to that's probably the source of the problem. So let's just take a look at the event dot. Let's run this again. And it says, hey, I'm running. Hey, your file wasn't found. Which means there's probably a problem up here. Was it the bucket that wasn't found? Let's just tinker around with these settings a little bit. So is that actually giffiator source? Giffiator source. We have session-01. And we have a jump-01.jpg. Seems like it should work. Let's try getting rid of all the slashes. Hey, it did stuff. Cannot read proper read message if undefined. I learned my lesson about printing out that entire event, but I'm going to do it again, which means we're going back into hacker mode. So we'll be right back. I'm going to hide again. I'm going to print out the entire event, which may or may not contain one of those juicy keys, and I don't want to go through that whole reset process again. Let's see if there are multiple parameters being passed in. Nope. Okay. So the callback, nothing executed. So the exciting story is the callback executed, nothing was there. Let's see if... Hey, we have an image with like bytes and stuff. I bet I can open that. See if it actually is like a well-formed image and it's what I expected. Hey, I downloaded that from a bucket. So I've downloaded something from a bucket. That's... Any program like this is a bunch of little baby steps. You take a bigger problem, you break it down into a bunch of smaller problems, you solve those, and every time you do, you feel so much better. So I successfully downloaded an image. So what we want to do is we want to download all of these images. This is probably where I should start to learn a little bit about promises, because this is where I'm starting to chain things together. Because I want to download a bunch of images. So how does this then thing work? So then runs, I give it a function, essentially, and then... Oh, and these are all using like global variables. So it's just like a chain of things that happen. So return bucket.file.path.download. And then I'm going to give it a .then. And this is actually the callback. So download the parameters, and this whole section just goes away. And I close it early, which is interesting. What is the very end of the chain? The very end of the chain just ends. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's doing a deletion. They deleted it. Okay. So then what we want to do is we console.log. Hey, image downloaded locally. But we want to get a bunch of images. Image 01. You feel unclean. Oh my gosh, I got my first comment on my stream ever. Hi, A2 Uday. JavaScript, you feel unclean. JavaScript does feel a little unclean sometimes, except dirty languages can get stuff done. And one of the reasons I use a lot of JavaScript just generally throughout a lot of my work is a lot of the code I write is actually not for like running or solving big problems. It's actually for communicating technical ideas to other people. And most people can read JavaScript, at least basic JavaScript. JavaScript as it exists today is getting a little bit more, like especially with promises as a design pattern and stuff like that, it's getting a little bit harder for non-JavaScript people to read. Which is why I write a lot of kind of like dumb, plain old JavaScript, because it's readable by people who spend most of their time writing C#, and that's cool. But before this, the most popular language in the world that was also easy to understand and could fit on a compact slide was PHP. So JavaScript is kind of a little bit of an improvement there. I'm much happier to be writing JavaScript than PHP. Not that I have anything against PHP, it's just even less clean. Okay, so let's figure out how to download all of these files. There's probably a different method that would make it easier, but we're using promises, so I'm just going to chain them one after the other, the other. The question says, I work in pen testing, so 90% of the security flaws I see are in JavaScript. Yes, that is one of the things about dynamic languages in general, and languages with lots of quirks. They do give rise to interesting security issues. Which is really fun as a security engineer. I actually spent a lot of time tinkering around with security stuff myself, and getting into the mind of a developer in the past, and then finding a bug they should have seen is an interesting experience. And JavaScript does give rise to many of those experiences. So what is the legend? The Java like other languages like Java and like Python, people spent months or even years designing them. Sometimes in small groups, sometimes in larger groups. And JavaScript was hacked together in a couple weeks or something like that so that you could solve some little problem in Netscape back in the day. And now it's the most popular language in the world by some measures, which is an interesting situation to have occur. But it's okay. One of the things I do love about JavaScript is this taught an entire generation of people functional programming in a way that all of those classes in Lisp and Scheme never seemed to do. I still don't really understand functional programming, but I got a much better understanding of functional programming by trying to solve problems in JavaScript to build web applications. But anyway, I digress. I'm way off the coding right now. I'm going to get back to the thing I was doing. I want to download a bunch of files. So let's just chain these together. I should just be able to start doing .thens, right? Right? That's how this stuff works. So .then, .unlink. Okay. I want to download a bunch of files. Bucket file path.download. So then, trying to get out of my mode of just like nesting these things endlessly deep. Let's just run this version, see if it runs first. Node index.js. Oh, gifs ran. Hey, downloaded image 1. Did it actually do that? Hey, it did download something. Okay. Cool. Okay, so I downloaded it. I checked that it is still there. I deleted it. It is gone. Bye. Now, how do we download multiple files? I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to do something embarrassing. So, before I do that, though, let's poke around in here. Hey, there's source code. This is a resumable upload. Oh, that's where that variable is defined in that function. Okay. Oh, that's just file. Okay. So download. Can I give download a list of things to do? So this is a convenience function that wraps around something else. How do I download a bunch of files? I'm way deeper than I want to be in here. I will just tinker blindly. Or I can chain them together. Should probably make a decision now. Do I want to learn how to just chain these single file downloads together, or should I try and download multiple files at once? I will just chain a bunch of them together. So how do these things actually work? So return by, okay, so this is when I return the promise that goes to the next phase. So I just want to do another one of these @then things. .then. We're going to chain this together, except instead we are going to return another promise. This feels weird. This feels really weird. Is that really how this is supposed to work? Okay. Yay, image 2. Yay, image 1. Applicants, and monads and burritos. Yes, I do like burritos. It's in response to a comment. Because I don't really know functional programming, and I don't really know how this stuff works. Because I have to admit, when I go back to building a web app, I still sometimes pull out like jQuery patterns, which fortunately I don't need the jQuery library anymore. I can do most of them with just built-in stuff in modern browsers. But same kind of deal. So this one was just getting file path from there, which is getting from this fake little stubbed out data. I'm just going to paste this in here. We're just going to try getting 2 images. We'll see if 2 images download. And then, oh, of course, we need yet another one. But this looks different. This, in a different color than this, means my IDE probably has a better idea about what's going on than I do. And this is probably going to make a little fireball. And it didn't make a little fireball. I am suspicious. Let's see what's in that directory, what actually came down. Oh my gosh, 2 images came down and they're different. Let's take a look at them. Is it actually the first 2 images of the GIF I want to make? Oh my gosh, it totally is. Yes. So I've written code that apparently breaks a little syntax highlighter in my IDE, but apparently is at least right enough, which disturbs me a little bit, but that's okay. So let's tidy these up, and let's just download. Let's just copy and paste and get all 4 of these images down. Oh, talk about feeling dirty about the code you're working on. This feels really dirty right now. But I will make it tidy later once I have a slightly better idea of what the heck I am doing. Okay, so now we have image 1, which is being downloaded to image stuff. Somebody mentions, Ade, console.log output needs to be changed to a single line function that changes the name. So there was some feedback. Console.log output needs to be changed to a single line function that changes the name. I don't actually know what that statement means. It's probably wonderfully good advice. But, and that may explain why my IDE has different colors up here and may be an indication of terrible stuff I'm doing. But let's just see if this runs. Because, you know, there's nothing more disturbing and nothing that's a sign of a future problem than code that you don't quite understand but still runs and gets the problem done, which is never a sign of a potential future security vulnerability or anything like that. Hey, all the images are there. Hey, this kind of works. So now I have a hard-coded thing that can download exactly 4 images. So now I have to decide, do I want to go back and actually make this like good now? Or do what I always do, make this less bad. You know, handle maybe a dynamic number of pictures coming in, because I don't know how many pictures the little rig thing is going to generate. It could be set up with 3 phones or 19, or one of them could be broken. Handle an arbitrary number of photos. But I probably have to do some more kind of fundamental research to accomplish this goal, which is something I don't really sure I want to expose you all to on my stream, of me like understanding the fundamentals of what this promise stuff is and how everything is broken. Okay, so I got some more feedback. Thank you very much for the advice. So instead of typing image 01 on one line and image 02 on the next line, you can make a function that changes the output based on the file name. Yes, I can. And that's what I would do if I understood the context in which I was executing my code, which goes back to that thing where I need to do some fundamental research on how this blob of code I've written up there actually correlates back to like a process that's executing, you know, procedural code underneath the hood. but that is a problem. I'll do that fundamental research offline, and I will come back and I will fix this code and make it less bad, because it is shameful right now. Oops, what did I just do? I just collapsed it. I hit it. Yeah, it is pretty shamefully bad. But anyway, I can move forward a little bit more now. I can use a library to get that temporary directory, and I can clean up when I'm done. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up when I'm done. So what should I do? Unlink. I'm just going to create a temporary file path. We're going to go here. We're going to figure out how it created that temporary path. And I'm going to steal this code from this wonderful example, which is, oh so fortunately, something that's always useful to do when you copy random code off the web, is look at the license that somebody has granted on this. This one is Apache 2.0, so I can use this code without too many gotchas. So we are going to do the temporary file path. We have about 24 minutes left in my stream for today, so let's just get this part done. Okay, so we have a temporary file path, which is using this OS. Hey, I've already gotten that library down, and I can do stuff with it. And make to repeat promise. I'll probably be using that too. So temporary file path, which comes from file name. What is file name? Where is that defined? Did I copy that code in yet? No. Where does it define file name? If only I could use the hotkeys to go to, like, invocation. Oh, is base path? This is creating a temporary directory with the file name. Oh, this is downloading the file, and it's keeping the same name that it had when it came from the source. So file path, which is the file name with all of the paths that go up to it. File name is using this path function, which, oh my gosh, I actually have it imported, so it will work. It's going to go get the base name, which is just the file name, and it's going to stuff it in this, which is great. Then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to create a temp file by getting the operating system temporary directory and adding the file path to there. So this is giving me the full path, which is not going to work with this sin against code I've done below. So I'm going to need to generate them anyway. So I'm going to call this tempdir. I don't need any of this anymore because I'm not going to do any joins. I'm just going to get the operating system temporary directory. I don't know much about how this call works. I don't know if it changes over time. I'm assuming probably not, but I'm not positive. I also don't know about the execution cost of this command, which I'm assuming is a pretty cheap command, but assumptions can be dangerous. So I'm just going to stash it in a variable for now, and then go back later and take a peek at the implementation to make sure it's not something insane. Because, yeah, insane things happen. So another comment, God gave your eyes, plagiarize, but remember to always call it research. Yes, God gave your eyes to always, there's a lot of code out on the web. Licensing varies a little bit. It depends on the context that you're using it in. So plagiarizing is not something that's necessarily illegal, but I am employed by Google. I work for Google, and I have to be conscious of the fact that the code I'm using, it's not just me on the line. I have to make sure that I respect all of Google's policies and all that kind of stuff, because people can get mad at companies and say things about the code that you use. So if you work for a company and you're using code, especially if for whatever reason that company decides that part of your job should be streaming your fumbling around with code, license is something you should care about in some contexts. But yes, research is important, and it lies along those hazy lines. But just copying and pasting code and putting it into potentially production systems, that's where you should pause and understand some of the consequences of what you're doing. But then again, I am not a lawyer. Most software developers aren't, and it makes me sad that I have to pretend to be sometimes, which is a very sad world we live in. But back to the actual code, I just want to take this stuff and download it to the temporary directory. So I'm going to use this This is just a string join, isn't it? Yeah, this is just like path.join. Okay, so it's using the join function of the path. It's not just doing string manipulation. It's doing a little bit more here. So we are going to, how have I done this so ugly? Let's just try downloading one of the images to the operating system temp directory, and then I'll clean this disaster up later. So we got our temporary directory. We got our hard-coded file name. We're going to join them. We're going to stick it into yay const yay temp equals path.join da 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 da. Okay, we're going to grab that disaster of sadness. We are going to tell that is where it's downloading it to. It's downloading it from here. This is the bucket name. It seems like I could even clean this all up a whole lot right now, but that's okay. I'm not going to. I am just going to prove that I can write to this temporary path. This should actually be here. Image 1 downloaded locally to, this isn't dangerous at all. Yay, temp path. Actually, that's probably just that. It's probably going to stringify it, and everything will be happy. Right? Right? I'm missing a semicolon, because JavaScript is semicolon, then you are angry. Unreachable code, because it's under the return. Oh my gosh, I'm a dumb bonehead. And that's going to be out of scope. Okay, so I will say where I'm downloading it to. Otherwise, I'd have to do it on the next section of this chain of stuff. Okay. So, does it run? Hey, it downloaded it to a place. Does it open? Oh my gosh, there's the picture. Okay, so I've actually managed to use getted path in var. So like this function actually works. I have no idea how it's going to behave different when I deploy to Cloud Function Land. Yeah, stuff. Okay. So that's good to know. To do, when fixing, design, make sure all the files go into real temp places. And there's reasons you want to, like, instead of just like making a directory like an arbitrary directory that is somewhere near where my code is executing, the reason you use this like git temp directory is it is safer. Temporary file systems can also be like implemented differently at like a system level. So maybe I put like a RAM drive under that or something like that, depending on how like weird sysopsy I'm getting. Also, like often this time is a volatile file system that gets destroyed during recycle. So if you leak a bunch of files out, it's not as bad, but don't leak files out to temp. That's a bad idea. Okay, so I've gotten this running, kinda. I'm just gonna, okay, so what do we want to do next? I've created some to-dos of things to clean up. A lot of me solving these problems goes back to that fundamental research I need to do. Let's go back, and with all these files downloaded, I should be able to just make another GIF, like a spawn promise. Like however that's actually being done. How are they doing it? Then console.log, thumbnail created. Oh, they're just doing return.spawn. Okay. That's reasonable. Yeah, I wonder why their spawn, like, this spawn just says convert. Is this like ImageMagick specific? Or is this actually just spawning a process? Like there's just a command they have on their terminal that's just convert that calls ImageMagick. That's interesting. I don't know why that is different, because I have to give it the name of the process I am, you know, the thing in my path, that the executable I'm running that spawns the process. Apparently they're just running convert.exe. Is that a command I have? Oh, it is. Okay. I feel like a fool now. And it does. Oh my gosh, that is a very long help because ImageMagick. There is a command I have that's just called convert. And it is ImageMagick. And it's the same as magic convert. Okay. I learned something important here. Well, not that important. I learned a tiny shortcut that'll make my code slightly shorter. Okay, so now I have a bunch of files downloaded. I'm going to revert this thing I did up here. Is that what I want to do? Yeah. So I'm going to revert this. And I'm just going to use that weird directory that's just all... I'm going to comment out this block. I'm going to revert this back to this little trash can fire of a project I've created. Image 2 is going to go to yay image 2, and now I have these hard-coded paths. I'm going to make an animated GIF, because that sounds like fun, and I have 15 minutes left. So I want to actually get that satisfaction of a GIF that I can see and looks pretty and shows people jumping. And if anybody doesn't like that, they can be poo heads. Go away. Okay, so here we are. We're going to return spawn. So this one just has a... I can probably just drop this in here. Get rid of that. Spawn, convert. Hey, that worked. Apparently I was running the convert command the whole time. Oh no, here it is, magic convert. Okay, so this is the command that I ran before. And download destination, yay image. Where is it actually downloading these two? That is so weird. I don't know how that was working, which is scary. Because I should have to, like, give it the full path. But it downloaded those images before when I ran this. I don't know where it downloaded them. That's a little bit scary. Anyway, so we are going to just change this to go to our handy-dandy temp path. All these fodder. Okay, I'll do this with... We'll actually use a feature of our IDE. We're going to replace all on this line. I'm not going to make you sit there while I kind of click around in those. And we should get spin3.gif. We'll spin that GIF. Yeah, I actually have no idea. Or wait. There they are. So it didn't work before. It had just downloaded them to the place where my function was running. Okay, which is not really what I want. What I want is I want them to go to that temporary directory. Make sure this stays on the screen. There we go, back to our integrated development environment. Let's try giving this a run, see if it makes a GIF. Oh, let's add another one of these. I know I just deleted this, but log, you should have a GIF. Question mark? Just an illustration of my confidence. Oh my gosh, running Giffizer. It downloaded stuff. Unhandled promise rejection warning. I failed with code 1. I don't know what ImageMagick's code 1, but child process error. So that means that this thing got grumpy. Yes. Hi, Slayer Darth. Yes, node. Node is apparently unpopular with people watching my stream today. That's okay. Because who needs more than one thread? Oh, but +1 for using command line. What else would you use? Can you, like, click things and have them run? I guess that you could use your IDE features, which would probably give me, like, an interactive debugger and stuff. But I'm using IntelliJ, which is a Java IDE, and I have no idea what plugins I need to actually set it up to do node stuff. That is a mystery to me. I should probably figure it out, though. Whenever I rarely do need to bring up an interactive debugger, I just use it on the command line. You can give it a parameter, and it spins up like a headless, not headless, an empty Chrome debug tools, and you can click around, which is kind of cool. But there's probably a better way to get it to integrate with my integrated development environment, but whatever. How to debug, multi-line commenting. I'm actually a really big fan of interactive debuggers with the clicking around. I don't know, like seeing those little trees can save me a lot of time. Getting interactive debuggers working is something that has, at least for the way my brain works, can make me an order of magnitude more productive than just commenting out multi-line blocks and stuff like that. And same with interactive REPLs. REPLs are another thing that's very important for me learning. But then again, like coding to a debugger has its own set of challenges. In a lot of languages, you can call methods that maybe aren't documented parts of the API surface and build software around that. Something that happens often in Android development. But that's another story. We are back to our GIF. We have 10 minutes left in my streaming time today. And I have my ImageMagick process is grumpy. So did it download? It downloaded the images. I should probably just be able to paste in this command and have it run. Hey, it blew up. That's pretty cool. This is probably what happened inside Node when it broke. Oh, there's some comments. I am trying to find visual regression testing suite I can integrate with our Gulp build process for one of our client sites. I think front-end unit testing is just as important as back-end unit testing these days. Oh, I totally agree. Like actual unit testing, but I have no recommendations. Maybe somebody else watching does. Jump on the chat and tell Slayer Darth your recommendation. Because the truth is, I've never actually really used Node in production, which is probably definitely for the best, because I still have no idea what I'm doing yet. Okay, so anyway, that process exited. No such file or directory. Temp stuff. Oh, the file names. I changed the file names. They don't match. So I need to change them. So we will, they're called yay image now, because yay. We are going to change jump 0 to yay image. We're going to replace everything in that line. Hey, this might just actually just work. Oh, it's downloading. Hey, I should have a GIF. Temp stuff. Did I get my GIF? Did I get my GIF? I got a GIF! Okay. That is super exciting. I have 8 minutes left. The next thing I would do is I would take my GIF and I would stuff it up into the storage bucket. Do we have time for this? I think we do. Because this should just be a single line, right? But I need more coffee, even though I only have 8 minutes left. Because code is not really a mental effort. It is just coffee distilled into text and electrons. That's all I really am. I'm just a factory worker that turns coffee into code. So, question in the chat. Do I have a GitHub account, by the way? Yes, I do. This code is not, this code may, I'm going to wait for it to be a little cleaner before I push it up. Right now I'm just using a local Git repo, but I do have one, and I will put it in the chat. http://github.com/miming, I think. Let me double check that. Does that go to me? Hey, it does! There's me on a dinosaur with a lightsaber. So yes, I do have a GitHub. And there's other code there, much of which is less of a disaster than this. Thank you for asking. It's always cool to be able to interact with people in code. Okay, so I should have a GIF, which means that I should be able to upload said GIF. So let's do that. Let's upload said GIF, which would be a wonderful cap on the day. Because as software is, does the auto formatter can even, okay, it can make heads or tails. So it's just 2 spaces missing there. So I should be able to upload my temp file, destination temp file path, thumb file path. Okay, so this is going to be, what is thumb file path? Is a directory name, but there's no bucket. Is there a bucket? So file path, does that contain a bucket? Because I'm assuming, oh, so it does. The file path in the bucket. So is it just, I want to upload to a different bucket. Oh, I'm going to need to set the GCS bucket. So bucket.upload. Okay, so I need to create another bucket because I'm uploading to a different bucket. So GIF bucket is And I'm just going to hard code it for now because we have limited time left. It does not have any of the cool like URL stuff in it. Gifiator source. If we go back to our bucket, we have another bucket, which is a bucket for Gifiator gifs. I mean, GIFs. Somebody asked about, what about Subversion or CVS repo? CVS? Wow, that brings me back. Once upon a time, my first job as a software engineer was doing a bunch of vendor code management using CVS. I am so happy we live in a land that has Git, because Git is amazing, and it makes me so happy. Because doing vendor code management, which is essentially like I had a third-party application that I had the source code to, we were making modifications to it, which was the Hibernate API. We were adding aggregations to Hibernate because Hibernate didn't know how to count yet, Java Hibernate. And every time Hibernate had an update, like a security patch, we had to merge all those changes in, which was so rough back in the days of CVS. Oh, somebody said, I notice you have quite a few repos to your name. Yes, I have many repos in my GitHub to my name. I upload a lot of terrible stuff. Basically, if there's anything out there I think might be useful to anyone, even a little bit, I upload it. So I apologize for some of those projects, but some of them I'm actually proud of. And a related question is, how long have I been coding professionally? I have been coding professionally for about 12 years now, although I bounced across a lot of industries, which has resulted in me not really being an expert at any one kind of software development. And actually, I tend to be a little bit more of a hacker. I tend to like working on smaller projects and understanding new frameworks, but rarely have I enjoyed digging into like one kind of development style to build a really large distributed system or something. So like I bounced around robots and like security stuff and all sorts of different things over my career. So someone mentions, I have a few major projects in my GitHub account, but too busy with client work at the moment. Yeah, it's hard to keep. Like if you look back through my history, you'll see that there are dips and peaks throughout my history of doing that, kind of the broader sharing of work. So one of those cool things about that dot on GitHub, you can see, sometimes you can kind of infer someone's travel schedule. But anyway, I have like 3 minutes left. I want to get this uploaded. So I'm going to take my hard-coded stuff, and I'm going to upload it to a bucket so I can celebrate. And then I'll go back later and learn a little bit about the stuff I'm using so I can create a smaller disaster in the future. So we're going to take spin.gif, and we're going to upload it to that bucket destination. I wonder if I could just create a path in the bucket. Because I want to keep these organized by the session. And let's see if this works. It's going to run through. It's going to download all the images again. I should have a GIF. Did it upload? Let's go take a look at my browser. Reload this page because it does not live update when things change. Oh my gosh! It created... Okay. Oh, it's because... Yeah. That's not exactly what I wanted, but I know why. Because it needs the actual object it's creating. Let's see if it can create a path. In addition to objects, because I know it can create objects. Let's reload that. Oh my gosh, it created a path. That's kind of cool. It created this. It even has a content type specified, which means I should be able to go here. If I click here, does it download? Yeah, it downloads. It does that. Cool. It just works. I'm impressed that it figured out the content type of the GIF, because usually I've had to kind of manually specify that. And there's a GIF. Okay, so now I have a total disaster, but it kind of works. And it is a good starting point for me to go like get this stuff a little better next time. So that for me is a reason enough to commit. I do a lot of commits. Add. We don't want our temporary stuff directory to get committed. And that's a pattern I do a lot. So I'm going to add that to my gitignore. So we're going to ignore. See, is it? Hey, I fixed it. Okay, so git add dot. Yay! Now gifs from and to a bucket with terrible hard coding. But I added to-dos, and that's the solution to any problem, because you got your bug tracker, you got your to-dos, and eventually you'll get to all those things, right? Okay, so I've committed code, and it is about time for me to wrap up for the day. So I'd like to thank everyone who watched and chatted, whether you're still here or not. Thank you so much for the feedback, the advice, and the company. And we are wrapping up, so we're going to go back to our to-do list. So we did this thing today. We got that ImageMagick command to run from node.js. I successfully spawned processes, and they ran. And then I got the ImageMagick thing to run, and I learned that there's a convert command that got added to my path when I installed ImageMagick in addition to the magic command. I figured out how to get the source images from the image bucket, kinda. So we're going to strike these through. Someday I'll get like a proper little task manager or something, so I don't have to like click around so awkwardly through slides. Somebody give me advice. Hey, Slayer Darth again. You can do gitignore path to file to add file pattern to gitignore. Ah, thank you. But for another show, I will use gitignore properly. Yes, I actually don't really understand gitignore. I've been able to fumble through it enough in my career that I should probably actually learn it someday. Since learning is fun, that's our job, right? And I took that GIF and I put it back in the bucket, which is also kind of working. So we're going to strike that through also. Right to the real-time database. And now this has also inspired some other things, which is clean up all that terrible hard coding. These are our new to-dos to do in the future. I might do that first next time. Then I'm going to wire it up to the real-time database, both as a source trigger. So I'm going to have the clients tell me when it's time to make the GIF, rather than just listening for those events from the storage system. And I also want to I want to be able to push back when it's done. So done trigger. And then finally figure out why Photoshop hates our GIFs faces, which I will push to a many future thing, because I'm assuming it still doesn't work. But deal with that later. It's time for me to wrap up for the day. So one more time, thanks again for all the people who watch. I think this is my second stream ever. I hope it was not too unpleasant. And another question. You have Photoshop, by the way. I suffer from GIMP on Ubuntu. I'm actually a really big fan of software tools. So as expensive as Photoshop is, and as good as other software has gotten, like Pixelmator and like the new MS Paint, like there's a lot of tools out there now that are getting so good. I've been using Photoshop for years, and the productivity gains I get from the hotkeys I've already memorized are so significant that it is worth the Creative Cloud cost. As much as I have mixed feelings about software, the current rise of paying by the month for software. That's a conversation for another time, though. It has pluses and minuses. But anyway, I pay for Creative Cloud because I know the hotkeys from using Photoshop back in the day. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up for today because I have to go do the other parts of my real job. Thanks again, everyone who watched. Thanks again, everyone who chatted. Thanks for the feedback, the support, the company. And we will pick this task up again next week, which I will be streaming at my usual time on Tuesday. I will be streaming from the road, though, so we will see if that works at all. It might be a catastrophe, depending on how fast the Wi-Fi I can find is. Hopefully not. Keep my fingers crossed. So, bye for now, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And stream off.